Right guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are doing another kind of overview of an NBA team and talking about their history, about their best players, all that they've done within their history, some of their good players and where they are now. So today we are actually going to be talking about the Brooklyn Nets. Now, disclaimer before I start this video, I'm sorry if I mess any information up in this video. Also, as you can probably tell, I'm very ill, so I'm trying my best to film these videos and get them out at a decent standard. These specific videos especially take me a very long time to produce. I have to do all the research on nearly every season, well not every season, but I do an overview on some of their seasons and stuff. And so I have put quite a lot of work into these videos and the ones coming up. The Brooklyn Nets history isn't that amazing compared to the other two teams we've talked about previously, but we are going to get into it and start with when they were formed in 1967 in the ABA. Now, the ABA did join with the NBA eventually, but they were at the start known as the Jersey Americans. They did then change their name to the New York Nets the next year, and then changed it again in 1977 to the New Jersey Nets. This is when they joined the NBA. This was probably to have a different name to the normal New York team that was in it at the time. And finally in 2012 they did change their name again to the Brooklyn Nets, and this is what the team is known as today. Now, formed in 1967, it's a decently old franchise that had some success within the ABA, winning 2 championships, but they never actually won an NBA championship. Those ABA championships were in 1974 and 1976. These were the 2 successes the franchises actually had. They haven't actually won an NBA title or performed that well within the NBA. They were one of the biggest teams to come out of the ABA and come into the NBA, but never really performed to the standard which they did in the ABA in the NBA. Now, the top players for the Brooklyn Nets and their former names include Dr. J. So if you don't know Dr. J, who won the ABA twice with the Nets. Now, this was the ABA seasons. So I'm not going to say too much about the ABA because I wasn't around, obviously, when the ABA was around. And I'm not too sure about how the quality was. But they did win 2 championships there. Dr. J is known as one of the best players of all time. For the Nets, he played 3 seasons where he averaged a field goal percentage of 50.8% and 28 points. However, these were his seasons in the ABA. He had a more successful career in the NBA outside of the Nets with Philadelphia, where he played 11 seasons, where he is a Hall of Famer, a 16-time All-Star. He was a 4-time MVP, an ABA All-Time Team, and a 1983 champion with the Philadelphia 76ers, and a 7-time All-NBA player. Now, he is one of the best players of all time, and in my opinion, probably the ABA's best player to ever play in that league. And people can disagree with that now. Obviously, I wasn't around to see much of the ABA and what it had to offer, so that's kind of opinion. And moving on to some other players, including now Jason Kidd. He actually got his championship away from the Brooklyn Nets at the Mavs. However, he played for the Nets. He averaged 39.7 field goal percentage and averaged 14.6 points per game and averaged 9.1 assists. Now, these are good stats for Jason Kidd. Obviously, though, again, with another player in the Nets history, they won a championship away. But outside of this, Jason Kidd overall was a Hall of Famer, a 10-time All-Star, a 94-95 Rookie of the Year, a 9 times All-Defense, a 6 times All-NBA, and a 2011 champion with the Mavericks, like I'd previously stated. Now, these 2 are the most famous ones, and these are the ones where I kind of had an idea, oh, these played for the Nets, so I'm going to do these. And then the final name on this list is Buck Williams. I'd never really heard of Buck before, and that's probably bad on my part. He's a 6'8" power forward and played 8 seasons with the Nets, so a lot more than Dr. J, for example. He averaged a 55 field goal percentage and 16.4 points per game and 11.9 rebounds per game as well. He was a 3-time All-Star and a 81-82 Rookie of the Year, and a 4-time All-Defense and a 1-time All-NBA. Now, these are some great players. The issue I have with them is they've only won ABA championships, and it's a bit obvious to say, but in my opinion, I don't hold them to the same quality as the NBA ones. Now, a lot of people could say the ABA at the time was as competitive as the NBA in those periods. I'm just not too sure about it, and I just don't hold it to the same standard. Dr. J is one of the best players of all time. Jason Kidd, again, one of the best point guards of all time. Buck Williams, I'd never really heard of. It's a shame Dr. J and Jason Kidd won a NBA championship away from the Nets, as that could have solidified them more as a major NBA team, one that has a lot of history, because this franchise has a lot of history, and it's cool to see that they came over from the ABA and have been in the league for such a long time. It's just that they just don't have the championships to back up this history. The weird part is the Brooklyn Nets are one of the most known teams around the world. I see Brooklyn Nets fans in England more than nearly every other team. For me, the main two teams I see in England are the LA Lakers, the Chicago Bulls, and then probably the Brooklyn Nets. I'm one of the only Celtics fans I've ever actually met, which is crazy to me. But a lot of people like the Nets, and they don't have the history. And a lot of times I think that is because of the modern day team which they did have and currently still have at the time of writing this list, which at the point of this going out, KD and Kyrie could have left, and Ben Simmons could also not even be there at this point, which could be interesting. To be honest, the modern day Brooklyn Nets are a mess. Before this season, last season, they would have had one of the best starting lineups in the whole of the NBA, having 3 major stars such as Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. These 3 are some of the best players of all time, and this team was always a championship contender before the season had always started. However, as soon as the season started, things started to go downhill, with Kyrie's kind of COVID situation, how he wasn't getting vaccinated, he couldn't play much, a lot of injuries. It seemed like James Harden wanted to leave, and James Harden did eventually leave halfway through the season to go to Philadelphia, which is interesting. Another player going from the Nets to Philadelphia to possibly win a championship, maybe. You never know in the future. Getting swept in the first round by the Boston Celtics, which was a fun time for me, seemed to create a dynamic with the front office and the star players at that point, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. It felt like it kind of created a bad atmosphere, and especially when the Nets didn't want to give Kyrie his contract that he really wanted. That kind of seemed to solidify that not all was well in Brooklyn, and Kevin Durant then has submitted a trade request where it seems as though he will leave next season. Now, it's a bit hard to say how the future of the Brooklyn Nets is even going to happen, because they don't really have control of their picks. And they're losing their star players and are going to be left with Ben Simmons, who came to the Nets to play with those star players. Which at that point, do you think that's a good idea to keep him then? Because he doesn't want to be there, really, unless he's got those star players around him. And the Nets right now are just a mess, and I just don't see them challenging for a title in a significant period of time, and that's just my issue with the Nets. It always seems like they're failing to challenge for the title nearly every single season. And they do have good teams, and they go all in for star players and trade away all their good young players. And that's kind of been the story of recent years. They traded away their good young team for star players in Kyrie and KD, and even James Harden as well. It's just hard to see whether this team will be able to build back up to the point where people are saying they were clear title contenders. And I just don't see it anymore, which is interesting because KD and Kyrie still haven't been traded at this point yet. And it's possible that it could happen soon, but a trade this big for 2 star players could take a long period of time. It seems as though Kyrie could be going to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook or a trade of that description. I'm not too sure about the details on that. And then you've got KD, who will probably go to the Suns, Miami, or Toronto maybe. It's hard to say at this point. In my opinion, the Brooklyn Nets just need to get back to getting that young team and kind of progressing how Toronto, the Cavaliers are progressing with a good young team. It's fun to watch, and it's an exciting young team which people know will grow into something. And then you actually have something where previously you just have star players where they have all the power against you. But that's just my opinion, and I could be totally wrong. Any Nets fans that are watching this video, please comment your opinion. I'd love to know what the Nets fans' opinion are on their team and the situation of the organisation as well. But that is the end of the video, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate a like on this video, and if you could subscribe to the channel, that would also be amazing as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do appreciate everyone for watching. Thank you so much.